Horror movies are no stranger to being embedded full of mystery, and the following films are no exception to this rule. However, the difference being with these films is that they contain mysteries that have not been solved, or are not directly solved within the movie in which they originate. Often a horror movie is just as good as the mystery that surrounds it, and this creates the suspense and chills that audience members expect when buying a ticket at the box office. So with that in mind then, I'm Ellie with What Culture here with 8 horror movie mysteries that will never be solved. Number 8. Why are all the men the same in Men? 2022 Alex Garland film Men definitely was met with different reactions from audiences all over. Some loved it, some hated it, and some just didn't understand it. It's clear to see at first glance that all of the men in the film, other than protagonist Harper's deceased husband, are played by actor Rory Kinnear, meaning that they are all the same. We follow Harper, a widow who has recently lost her husband to what appears to be suicide, and her visit to a countryside village in order to seek solace for her grief ends up becoming her worst nightmare. The film is full of pagan symbolism and iconography, as well as strong links to the Bible and the creation story. Neither of these aspects are particularly explained in the film's 100-minute runtime, but the biggest mystery of the movie that remains unsolved is that of the men in the village all being played by the same actor. This seemed like an interesting premise before the film was released, however it falls slightly flat as the plot unfolds, as it seems to have no direct link to anything, and more importantly, it's not explained. Number 7. What does Jason know in Us? Jordan Peele's film Us sparked joy among horror film fans upon its release, but left many tongues wagging with its final few moments. This movie centres on protagonist Adelaide and her family as they vacation in her family's old boathouse. Not before long, strange things begin to happen to Adelaide, and her anxiety about an entity that she has feared since childhood comes to fruition in the form of a family of doppelgangers standing in their driveway on a dark summer's night. It becomes clear that this family's intentions are not kind or pleasant, and seeing the original family battle against their identical counterparts is both horrifying and devilishly entertaining. By the end of the film, the audience are met with a stark realization about Adelaide after a flashback shows the true events of the night she has always feared since childhood, changing the entire meaning of the film and altering the way you might perceive the doppelgangers. Once the family have evaded the murderous clutches of the tethered, the final moments see Adelaide's son Jason staring at his mother while they drive off in the car with the rest of the family. But we can't help but wonder, what does Jason know? Does he know his mother's secret? Is he part of the secret? You decide. Number 6. Where did the creature come from in Bird Box? Bird Box threw Sandra Bullock headfirst into a Netflix-owned thriller that ultimately brought her back into the public eye. Her acting skills were not to be faulted, and the premise of the film gave her something fresh and fun to work with. We see Bullock as Mallory, a heavily pregnant woman who is thrust into a doomsday situation when people begin killing themselves without reason in the street. It is soon revealed that the creature responsible for this is not visible to the human eye, and therefore makes it very difficult to combat. As luck would have it, Bullock's character not only gives birth to a healthy baby boy during the midst of this carnage, but she also becomes adept at travelling outdoors without relying on her sight. One thing that is never disclosed, however, is the origin of these malevolent creatures. Although not needing to know this information in order to understand the plot, it is a mystery that continues to evade the lore of the film. Despite it being one of the biggest mysteries surrounding the movie, we can't help but wonder if not knowing the creature's origins makes them even more scary. Number 5. Are the ghosts real in Crimson Peak? Crimson Peak is a delightful addition to director Guillermo del Toro's filmography, and is not the first time he has dipped his toes into the horror genre. The film is bursting at the seams with classic gothic imagery and cinematography, making it a very visually pleasing experience. This particular tale follows character Edith and her marriage to Thomas Sharp of Crimson Peak Estate in England. From the opening sequence showing Edith as a child, it's evident that she has some ability to see ghosts in a certain capacity, except it's not until later on in the film where this becomes integral to the plot. Despite the ghosts themselves being important in terms of Edith's character arc and ultimately where her story ends, it is never once revealed as to whether or not the ghosts are real. Her connection with the spirit realm is heavily inferred, but as the other characters never display any outward affiliation with these mysterious entities, it raises the question of the ghost's legitimacy. Edith could have developed seeing these spectres as a coping mechanism after her mother died when she was a child. However, this is unfortunately something we will never know, and Del Toro will undoubtedly continue to keep close to his chest. Number 4. Who actually is the Bye-Bye Man in The Bye-Bye Man? The Bye-Bye Man is a 2017 horror that left audiences confused and disheartened by its severe lack of plot substance. Not only did it have two-dimensional characters that could have been replaced with inanimate objects, but it also left one very large unanswered question. Who the living hell was the Bye-Bye Man? Before meeting college students John, Elliot and Sasha as they move into their new joint home, the audience are provided with the much-needed foreknowledge of the antagonist's existence in the opening sequence. Limited information is given away about the nature of the Bye-Bye Man, other than he is often accompanied by the sounds of coins falling to the floor. The nature of what accompanies him and the fear which he instills in his victims is genuinely intriguing, and in a way sets up a very interesting villain that has the potential for a great backstory. Unfortunately, this is not at all delivered upon, and a backstory is simply not provided in any way, shape or form. Nothing about his existence makes any sense, and not even the people within the film know anything about who he is. Number 3. What happened to Megan in 10 Cloverfield Lane? 10 Cloverfield Lane is a 2016 horror thriller that has loose links to 2008 found footage film Cloverfield. This movie is brilliantly crafted from start to finish and fantastically shows the development of each of the characters, most notably of antagonist Howard and his descent into madness. The majority of the film takes place inside of an underground bunker that has been designed by Howard to be used in the event of an apocalyptic-style situation, whether this be nuclear war, natural disaster, or an alien invasion. This movie is full of different mysteries the further in you get, but the one that sticks out most prominently is the question of what happened to Howard's daughter, Megan. He explains to protagonist Michelle that his wife took his daughter to Chicago many years ago, and that he has not seen her since. Various things within the bunker point to Howard having held someone captive before Michelle and Emmett found themselves there. And it's inferred that this is not his daughter Megan, but rather a high school girl that went missing 2 years previous. Of course, this does then beg the question, what really happened to Megan? Number 2. What does the Blair Witch look like in the Blair Witch Project? The Blair Witch Project paved the way for what is now known as the found footage subgenre. Its marketing techniques advertised the film as genuine footage recovered from the woods where the 3 actors were claimed to have disappeared. After the film's release, however, this was revealed to be a strategic marketing ploy that successfully increased the interest in the subgenre that seemed to be gaining traction. One vital element of the Blair Witch Project's found footage believability is that it only rotates between 3 main characters, other than the townspeople that the students interview early on in the film. In addition to this, the production quality is evidently very low to try and emulate a documentary feel, which means that everything is overtly drenched in realism. However, because of this, a certain level of credibility to the plot is unfortunately lost, and the visual reveal of the Blair Witch never actually happens, which means that the audience never finds out what the entity looks like. Number 1. Why is Jack in the 1921 photo in The Shining? The Shining, arguably Stanley Kubrick's most famous film released in 1980, follows Jack Nicholson's character Jack Torrance and his wife Wendy, along with their son Danny, as they relocate to the isolated Overlook Hotel for a new job Jack is undertaking as a winter caretaker. The film holds several mysteries that have remained unanswered since its release over 40 years ago, but this does not stop its fans from attaching multiple theories to them. One such theory that has been attached to the unsolved mystery of why Jack is in the photo from 1921 is highly influenced by a rare interview with Kubrick, in which he confirms that several ghosts Nicholson's character encounters are reincarnations of people who lived and died in the hotel. This therefore plays into the idea that Jack Torrance is the reincarnation of a previous individual that was once the caretaker of the Overlook Hotel, and even at one point Jack is told that he has always been the caretaker by the butler of the establishment. Although not being an outright solid explanation of the mysterious sighting of Jack in that photo, it certainly would make a lot of sense. Still, the beauty is this is never confirmed, leaving audiences to settle on an explanation themselves.